Get in there. Where's my hole at? There it is. So I've been looking for a reason to kind of get back into trying this whole YouTube thing, and I recently came across this. This is a Helios 442. It's a 58mm f2 lens that is a Soviet era, Russian or Soviet Union made lens. This one I think dates back to the late 60s. They're basically replicas of a Zeiss lens, and yeah, some were made for government officials, some were made for spies. This is a fun little lens, most commonly known for its interesting bokeh characteristics. And what some people even do is they'll switch the front element around backwards, which really intensifies the swirly bokeh, and it gives it some really fun effects. But this, I came across this because someone local to me, it was only about a 10-minute walk, was selling one on Facebook Marketplace, so I snagged it up and decided to adapt it using a 3D printed adapter, just because I didn't want to spend the money on it yet. I was like, I have a 3D printer, why not? It came with an M42 to micro 4/3 mount. So I actually took the metal ring from the micro 4/3 mount, so I'd actually have metal threads, and modified the adapter that I found online and made it work. So yeah, basically this threads into here, and this goes onto my GFX 50S2. A lot of people are adapting 35mm lenses to the GFXs, so I wanted to give this a shot, and I think it works pretty damn well. I'm gonna put some images up on the screen, and let's take a look, and then we can talk about a few. So a couple of shots that I want to point out, just to kind of get a vibe on this lens. This is an interesting example of the, kind of where the sharpness lies on this lens. It's not perfectly sharp, nowhere near it. And trying to shoot this thing at f2 is damn near impossible. It does not make for a great time trying to nail focus. We can actually take a look, and if we come in here, the text on the pillar is nice and sharp. The people are looking pretty good, but as you start to get out towards the edges of the frame, you start to see some of the characteristics of this lens. It starts to get you get a sharpness, but you also get this distortion that makes it kind of interesting. There's a weird fall off. Now, this lens is known for what people call a swirly bokeh. Now, none of what I shot actually really enhances that much. But it makes for some interesting depth, and I really like the lens characteristics of this. I sat by this corner trying to basically wait for some interesting people to kind of come across this light. What was nice is we had the sunlight coming in from the left, kind of cutting between some buildings, but then it was reflecting off of the building to the right. So you can actually kind of see on this guy's face how one side of his face is being lit by the reflection of the building while the sun is hitting him from the back. Now, he's not in focus, so I was trying to wait for the right person to cross in my path here just above where this storm drain is, but nobody passed in the right time. But I still kind of messed with this to kind of see what I could come up with. I thought that the fall off in the distance was really interesting. Again, more characteristics of this lens. I did try to shoot a street portrait. This is this skateboarder down at South Bank. He was kind enough to stand for me. I thought it was interesting that he was wearing 2 different skate shoes. If we come in tight, you can actually see where it's actually pretty decently sharp on the middle of his jacket, but because the focus and the sharpness of the lens falls away from the center, by the time you get up to his face and his eyes, you start to lose this focus and this distortion a bit. But what's interesting is I really thought that the catch lights from the sunset, that were hitting his eyes, the way they distorted and the way they fell out of focus, they almost flare in this like weird oval like spike. I just thought it looked interesting. Even though it's not perfect, it makes for an interesting photograph. Now, all of these up until this point, I have tried to shoot at f2 just to see if I could get anything usable. Now, am I gonna post this stuff up and try to get work out of this? Absolutely not. This is more of a fun exercise. I did go out again and try to get a few shots where I did play around with stopping the lens down a bit. I think this lens really starts to come in and look okay when you start to stop down to about f4. But this particular shot, I used the X-Pan crop, so it's a 65:24 ratio. And again, I really like these spots in the city where you have sunlight coming from one direction, but you're getting a lot of reflection of the sunlight off of buildings, and it's lighting the subject from another direction. So all of this cross-contamination of light I think is really interesting around London, especially if you're playing around with street photography. I'm not a street photographer. There are people that are leagues better at street photography than me. This is more of a me running around testing this lens combination out. But we've got this great vintage car here that this classic American muscle that this guy has in London. And I actually asked him, he was nice enough to let me take a photo. But given that the GFX actually has like a taller sensor, so it's more of like a 4.3, you don't actually lose that much when you crop in from the side, so it's great for doing square crops. I think the sharpness is probably best right around the corner. I'm probably at 2.8 here, not as, I could probably have stopped down a little bit more and gotten a bit more in focus, but the way it falls off and the way it, it kind of sets the scene here, I just thought was a really fun shot. Now the last couple shots of this are some portraits that I did of some friends out at some BMX trails just down the road from me. I think this is where I'm actually gonna have a lot more fun with this lens, and where probably a lot of people aren't utilizing this lens in a similar way. Where a lot of people have been getting this for that vintage look. They're doing street photography, they're doing nature stuff. I stopped this lens down to about f8, but I used my Profoto strobes, and this is kind of where this is starting to shine. You're still getting some soft focus characteristics, but the sharpness really starts to come through when you stop that lens down. I love this shot. This kind of fits in with the vibe of some of my portrait work anyways. If you look at some of my like environmental portraits, I really like these wide scenes that kind of establish a sense of place and a sense of where someone is, their environment. And the fact that this lens has given now some additional characteristics to this that just came through the glass. I didn't add a lot of this in post. This is just a bit of color grade, bit of sharpening, and I thought it worked really well. And given the fact that I'm using this adapted, 60-plus-year-old lens, I think they came out great. I think there's a lot of potential to make some interesting portraits with this lens, especially in a more of a studio environment. So yeah, I'm gonna continue to play. So that's gonna be it for today. I am just getting this whole YouTube channel thing back started up again. I'm using this as a kicking off point. I'm gonna do my best to do weekly videos, and I've got a list of probably about 60 videos that I can start to put together, and where we're talking about the industry, we're talking about photography, we're talking about the process, less gear, but there might be opportunities like this one where gear makes for an interesting conversation. So please do me a favor and like, subscribe. If you got anything out of this, feel free to follow me over on my socials, and yeah, look forward to the next video, and I'll see you soon.